Josh with the picture
Yeah,
in
she
here,
thinks that
or
would be
Josh
too
with the giant microphone, but on the tiniest little stool.
Take a picture.
Oh yeah, I'm sending it to you now.
Big Josh
they call
on
it
a
a French
tiny
thing.
stool. Big Josh on a
To
tiny
the point where-
stool. Here we are, and welcome to another episode of the Friday Night Movie Podcast. We've got another big episode today. I would say this is definitely an in the family episode, as we have returning champion Josh visiting for his third visit to the show. He's here in person with me in Virginia, and he's got a lot on his mind. So we'll cut to the chase as soon as possible. Lily, how are you doing?
I'm good. I'm in the city of brotherly love with our parents. So, can't complain.
And last night, I FaceTimed with you with my kids, and I videoed on my side while the FaceTime was happening what parents go through when they have to FaceTime with children and other people in another
But I
city.
didn't FaceTime with you.
No,
What?
you weren't there?
Oh.
No, it was
I don't
just
think
me
so.
and Dad and your son, and then my kids
I wasn't
bouncing
there.
off the walls, covering the camera because they think it's funny, stealing things from me and hiding them, running around, throwing things, trying to like talk to the wrong part of the camera on the
It's
iPad.
torture.
And I don't know how you feel about FaceTiming with your kids at like forced moments in time, Josh.
They run around with an iPad showing everybody the ceiling, or they reverse it and just show you random things.
And the grandparents then get really mad at you and the iPad for the kids
My
controlling
mother
it.
has lost all patience because there's a younger baby, so she's just like, "Yeah, I'm going to go talk to the other baby now."
But I had the privilege of watching Mom try to do a slideshow on the TV of like one of her albums, but from her office. So everybody's in the living room watching a TV that's just Mom's computer screen. So she somehow was able to mirror her own computer screen from her office to the living room, yet couldn't figure out how to start the slideshow of the photos.
Which
so
is
everybody's
just
just like watching
starting
her
PowerPoint.
files.
Basically, was there music? Did you have like one track of music?
I asked if there was music, and somebody, like one of my cousins next to me, was like, "Just don't. Just get the pictures on the screen." And I kept giving her instructions from the living room of being like, "Just right click, and everybody's watching her mouse like bounce around the screen from in a completely different room. And I turned around to everybody. I was like, "This is going on the podcast, people." I was like, "This is what the magic is made of." I was like, "Do you see what we have to live with?"
That's amazing.
It's a lot of pressure when
Hilarious.
someone's watching your screen.
One of Mom's all-time
Yeah.
greatest lines when it comes to these things is, "Can we please Skype the Apple TV?"
Yeah.
It's actually
Can we
become
do
a regular.
Skype? No,
You just
she'll be like,
digitalize
can we do
it?
Skype? She's like, can we do Skype and put it on the Apple TV? That's what she'll say.
And the answer is still no.
No.
So this is to all the parents out there who have to live in the... And also, have you ever noticed, and God bless our parents, but have you ever noticed that like when we were little and we had to call our grandparents, you'd call them once a week on Shabbat from a landline. Now, I admit we were not the most talkative kids on the phone to older people. It's kind of an awkward thing to do, but we were still like respectful, but it was an open and shut experience. Everyone took turns with the phone. Now, because of like the existence of FaceTime, have you ever noticed how like grandparents are like the millennials of grandparents in their entitlement to have video at all times?
I see what you're 100% true.
They're like,
Yes.
"Can we FaceTime?" I'm like, "Can we just please use a phone like in the 1980s? Please."
That's funny.
And when they hear this, I will be officially thrown out of the family.
Yeah, but that's why we're letting you go on, because, you know,
I
we're
know.
ready to cut you
It
out.
gives
tonight.
us.
You want me to not?
It
You
gets
want
us in good graces.
You want to knock me down a peg, but I feel like the world
Just a
needs.
couple.
I've had that one on my chest for a while. Okay, now
Okay.
we've got Becky, who is back from Copenhagen.
Back from
And
Copenhagen.
What would you like to tell us about Copenhagen?
Before we even get into Copenhagen, I just want to say thanks for having me back on the show in my usual spot. I'm shocked you haven't fully replaced me at this point.
With the Michael Roberts.
Clearly,
you sibling.
you two and Mike Roberts didn't even miss a beat without me. Listen to that episode.
We were very sad you weren't there.
And
Barely.
so we were sad you weren't there. I'm sure Mike missed you, but to his credit, he was an awesome guest, and it felt natural. So maybe he'll be our stand-in when you have to do more fancy travel. We'll just call this, renowned award-winning director to take a time out and be on the show.
Copenhagen was beautiful. I didn't see very much of it, to be honest, because I was working the whole time. I did get to escape for a couple of hours on one of the nights, and just so random, but it's the type of thing that I knew I would never get to do if I was at home, because I wouldn't spend the money, and it would be too annoying to organize. But very randomly, Justin Timberlake was playing a show when I was in Copenhagen the night I landed. So after dinner, and everyone went back to the hotel, I snuck off to the arena, and I actually went to go see him play. So that was super fun.
And did he play Dick in a Box?
He did not. Shockingly, he did not.
So
No.
I'm impressed that you went to do something fun, because when I traveled with your brother to the far north, we went all the way to Scotland and went to the movies and saw Spider-Man or something.
No. In fact, the movie we saw was the movie where
Leave it to Shy to get to Nepal,
To,
the
like,
Himalayas,
McDonald's in
and
a
be
movie.
like, yeah, he's like, guys, where's a movie theater?
we went
But
to
to
see.
be fair, I didn't go see anything. It's not like I went to go see some typical Danish, performance
Pop
or
star?
You're like a live
walk through
reenactment of the girl
or
with
like
the
walk
dragon
through the
tattoo.
squares or over the harbor. I went to
That's
go
Sweden.
see what?
Now, Josh said a live reenactment of dragon tattoo, but that's not the right country.
Sweden,
really
Denmark.
Denmark. You
It's all
can
the
see
same.
Sweden from Copenhagen. It's really just there, so it's very, very
Was it ever
close by.
nighttime while you were there?
It was. The sun set at 9 p.m. Everyone's like, it's the land of the midnight sun, or is that it? Is it the line? Midnight?
Is it?
I don't know. But the sun set at 9 p.m. It was very dark at night.
So I have a question, not to get super competitive, but did you save anybody from a near-death experience when you were there? Because when I was in Copenhagen, I definitely saved someone's life.
Wow, what a segue. What a segue. No, Shy, I did not save anyone. Would you like to tell your story?
I think it's time for the world to hear the story. This is a 100% true story. I don't think any of the three of you have heard this story. So because I never really told it because I wanted to be humble and I didn't really want people to know that me and
Now you're going to
So
tell it
on
on the
a
podcast.
podcast.
now I have podcast stories to tell.
Breathing into their microphone.
It's not
Lily?
Josh or me. I think it's
Lily?
Lily. Lily's eating the rugelach and she's like
I'm
heavy
not.
breathing while eating
I'm
rugelach.
not. I didn't mean to be. Okay, I'll move away from my microphone.
So I attended a conference about 8 years ago, and it was a very intense work schedule, and we'd work. It was in the winter in Copenhagen, which I don't know what it's like now, but it is really cold. It is like the planet Hoth. And where we were working, the conference center we were working, was near a canal, like a very icy, cold canal that was under an underpass of a bridge. And every night when we'd walk back from the conference, in the freezing cold, we would stop off at one of these restaurants. There was an Asian restaurant, there was a sandwich shop, there was another place, all on the other side of this canal. And one night, as me and this awesome Swedish dude named Marcus, who I worked with, were walking back to the restaurant, we heard someone moan, and we looked out of the corner of our eye, and down below us, a guy was holding on to the edge of the canal, and his entire body, other than the upper area, like of armpits as above, was submerged in the freezing water. And he was basically just moaning and asking for help, and essentially looking like he was going to die anytime soon. And so we went over to him, and we went to... The guy I was with was very strong. Let's be clear, I was not the strong one in this. And we went to go pull the guy out, and it's like his whole body was dead weight because like half of his body was frozen at this point. And we grabbed his shoulders, and we did that thing that you learn in when you go whitewater rafting, where you kind of dunk someone to get some momentum. So we kind of like dunked him down a little bit and pulled him out. He was really heavy. We pulled him out. He was a very skinny guy.
Wait, it was your idea? You were like, let's dunk him further to get
not
momentum?
dunk him underwater, but yeah, like you
create momentum.
It's like when your car is stuck.
Yeah.
Exactly. So we rocked him down, we pull him up, and when we pull him up, he got like a burst of adrenaline. And I suspect because he was super, super skinny and his pupils were so dilated that they were poking out of his eyes that he was high out of his mind. Because then he developed super strength and was just running around and like pushing us, and we were trying to subdue him because he was like out of control and at this point like very dangerous.
And he fell back into the river, and you're like, peace out, man.
He did not.
Forget it.
No.
I thought you were going to say he wasn't wearing pants when he came out.
No. He was dressed, and so we actually, Marcus, who is bigger than me, he kind of put his arms around him, and I put my arms around the other side of him, and we held him down and kind of subdued him, and then walked him into one of the restaurants, and they brought out like a little hairdryer, and they were putting a hairdryer on this poor guy as we were trying to warm him up. But because he was like lashing about and probably on drugs, we were a little bit scared, we didn't want to, like, this was not someone I wanted to pierce my skin. And eventually...
That's a weird way to say that.
Why? No,
just a weird way to say that.
He was very scabby, but so we.
Oh, okay. No, I see what
I get what you're saying. I
totally understand what you're saying.
So at this point, he's physically safe. He's being dried off, and the police have come because we called up to someone who was in one of the apartments, and they called the police, and the very tall Danish police officers arrived, and they were basically like, "Yeah, we're not touching this." Like,
jeez.
We were like, guys, don't you want to... They're like, fine. They call an ambulance. The ambulance comes, straps the guy down, takes him away. And we were like, so do you want to, like, interview us or something? I mean, what if something happens to this guy? What if someone's looking for him?
There's like 100% no crime rate in Denmark, so they have to keep up,
Oh, maybe that's why. Maybe they just
we can't report this case.
Maybe they just go write down the crimes, and that's why they have no crime. Anyways, so we, like, eventually convinced them to take our names because we were like, look, what if you have follow-up questions? What if a crime was committed related to this guy?
Please, contact us.
So we gave them our phone numbers and our passport numbers, and they never called us. But so that was my trip.
But you did save someone's life. That's incredible, Shay.
Thank you. And this is the first time I'm revealing that story, other than the other person who was there on the trip.
So we're just going with the one-upping Becky theme.
Yeah, well, so Josh is going to one-up you too because he has a poetry story related to.
So this was like the craziest thing that happened to us last week. So in December, we were down in New Orleans, and one of the things that they do in New Orleans around the French Quarter is it's sort of like live poetry writing. And you can walk up to any of these poets who have giant 40-ounce beers next to them, and they're like often wearing like bathrobes and things, and you can give them a topic and your name, and they will write this beautiful poetry for you. So our kids did it, and it was like the highlight of our trip. The poetry was beautiful, and we were there's like a music fest where we live in the Lehigh Valley, and so we were walking around the other day, and we had these guests staying with us. And I was like, oh, man, I've seen this live poetry. You guys should really get a poem. They're really cool. It's something completely different that you can get for someone. So while the guy is writing his poem, I look at his sign, and I'm like, oh, man, it says New Orleans. And I look at Danielle, my wife, and I'm like, Danielle, I think this is the guy that wrote a poem for Lily. She looks at me like I'm completely insane and I'm an idiot. And I pull up the picture that we took from there, which is just basically Lily in the back of some guy's head. And I'm like, no, man, I'm telling you, this is the same guy. And we're going back and forth with her calling me an idiot and me trying to get her to look at this picture. And the guy who's writing the poem is like, guys, I hear what you're saying. Just wait 1 second. And so he finishes his beautiful poem.
You're like, do you think he can hear us?
Yeah. It was super awkward because we're like, hey, that's him. I think this is him.
And he's like a foot from you.
Yeah, we're basically standing on top of him. He's like, just wait. So then I'm like, he finishes, and I pull up this picture of the back of his head from New Orleans. I'm like, I know this is like a 0% chance, but is this you? He's like, yeah, man, that's me. That's Bathrobe Joe. And then he points to my daughter, and he's like, that's Lily. I'm like,
What?
I'm like, dude, you're what? You heard us talking, like, you heard our name. He's like, no, that's Lily. And then he proceeds to recite the poem off by heart that he wrote for her 6 months earlier in December. And he's like, I absolutely remember, Lily. That is the best poem I ever wrote. I've never compiled my poems into anything, but I made my first, like, book of my poems, and that's on the first page.
Oh my goodness.
Oh my gosh, that is awesome.
Crazy,
That's
right?
so special. That's really beautiful.
Crazy. So at Bathrobe Joe, you can follow him on Instagram. He is making his way up in a van, living in a van from New Orleans. Bathrobe Joe, great poet.
I've just followed him on Instagram, so he has one more follower.
Indeed. He
Because
was
of
a
that
super nice guy. And what a crazy thing. Anyways.
So, you guys also know this is the second time Josh and I are seeing each other in a week, because last week we went to go see legendary band Radiohead
Radio Fire.
Not Radio Fire.
in Philadelphia.
Who cares?
And
Do we have to listen to a review of it now?
well, no. I won't review the concert. What I'm going to talk about is the experience afterwards, which was we crashed at Mom and Dad's, and Dad was there, and the three of us hung out, which was really fun, and ate like half a tin of those big pretzel rods that Dad likes. We just
The driest food on earth.
we just
Very
it was
thirsty.
That will bind you, friends.
Yeah.
That will bind you.
Dad asked me if we wanted snacks, and I just assumed there were other snacks, and we got there just pretzels, but that was fine because that's a great thing to enjoy.
It was delicious.
It was delicious. So we ate pretzels and caught up with Dad, talked football, told him a little bit about the concert, and then lo and behold, we get an email from Dad a couple of days later with the title of the email is Radio Fire or whatever, thought you would be interested. And it linked to an article by something called Brooklyn Vegan, which I don't know how Dad found that website.
It's a blog.
With a review that the I love it because the title of the review says Radiohead in it, but Dad still called them Radio Fire. So Josh sends him a thank you note. I write back and said, Dad, I dare you to listen to Radiohead and give us notes on the music. So Josh proceeds to give Dad a playlist not based on the greatest hits of Radiohead. What did you give him? I don't know what Josh gave him. But I'm going to, unless Lily has it up in front of her, I'm going to read dramatically from Dad's reaction to hearing about Radiohead.
One of the best emails.
I'll let you.
It
It's
should
fine.
be, this
I'll
should
let
be
you.
published somewhere for
I'll
all
read
to
it in
read.
full. I'll read it in full radio voice. Upon
No,
first
no. You have to read it in Dad voice.
Dad voice. Oh.
Yeah.
I feel like
Like
they-
an annoyed,
Cranky
like
Brooklynite.
It was a very
annoyed, cranky
cranky-
Brooklynite who's extremely like
All right, okay.
has high taste in music and is intelligent and actually likes
Okay.
And has no
EDM.
patience.
Upon
Like, prefers
first
electronic
oh, you're right.
dance
That's true. Dad likes a lot of electronic dance music.
dance music.
Oh, yeah,
So
he
it's like
loves
it's a
electronic
very
dance.
unique
sentiment
situation.
you-
He makes all of the mixes for our family New Year's parties. It's all EDM, heavy EDM, and Akon, lots of Akon, and acapella. Anyways, so okay. Upon first reaction to the first song, Everything in the Right Place, I thought the lead singer was in pain. Then I realized it was just the way he sang. The second song, Full Stop, spelled Fulstop, reminded me of listening to an LP record where there was a scratch and the needle kept repeating the same groove over and over again. And then Dad asked, couldn't they afford to print the second F in the word full?
It's amazing.
third song
I
I
love the
listened-
stuff he picked up on.
The third song I listened to, ironically, is called Lucky, just at the moment that I was feeling very unlucky for having the bright idea to send this link to you all in the first place. The fourth song, Kid A, has some real potential.
I love that. That's my favorite.
To
Has
make it
real
into-
potential. Like if only he could have gone to Radiohead in time to
make
tell them to make that they could have made it better.
to make it into my library, but I don't want to leap too quickly. If only the singer would stop singing it, then it would be fine. I like the fifth song, How to Disappear Completely, because there was only one instrument and one singer. Less is more with Radio Fire. I truly believe that the 6th song I listened to, Spectre, is the first song I can remember that actually does not have a melody. I think it's an achievement to play
This is my
3
favorite
minutes
part.
and 23 seconds and avoid playing a series of consecutive notes that constitute a melody. It's kind of like walking a mile in New York City and never stepping on a crack in the sidewalk. By the time I listened to the 7th song, There, I felt that I nailed the Radio Fire formula. First, start with a sound that feels like someone is drilling into the left side of your temple. Then add drums which feel like someone is beating on the right side of your head, in sync with the drilling that continues on the left side of your head. Now, do not develop the musical theme under any circumstances. Then add the singer who sounds like someone in pain imitating Stephen Stills. There you go, my reaction to Radio Fire. Josh then pledges to send Dad a better set list, and then Dad responds with, Lord, please, Josh, please, I implore you, no, don't do it. I'll do anything. You can have our apartment. Please, no more Radio Fire. Then Dad demands a writing credit for this episode of the podcast, which he gets. And then Josh then responds with an amazing email detailing Radiohead's 3 first albums, which are absolute classics, Pablo Honey, The Bends, and OK Computer. And Dad sends back a one-line email that says, I'll be damned, it's good music, thank you.
That's
But
hilarious.
I have to say, Dad's review of, I guess, anything post those 3 albums is exactly how I feel about Radiohead.
Here's what I equate it to. I was trying to find a pop culture analogy for this podcast, and to me that's like telling someone to watch G.I. Joe and asking them to watch the Cobra Returns movie first. That's what it feels like. It's like, why don't you watch the guy from Magic Mike in this movie instead?
Oh, you mean the Rise of Cobra?
Yes, the Rise of Cobra.
That's it. Okay, introducing them to G.I. Joe that way and not
Yes.
through the cartoon.
Exactly.
Okay, that is, if you walked into this Radiohead concert and you had never heard Radiohead before, you would be a little bit not clear with what was going on. But I will say, overall, it was great, and Radiohead fans, who are the people that concert was made for, were extremely happy. And given that we're about to take both of our families to Fish later today, I completely respect bands that are there to, make those fans happy and not necessarily play all their greatest hits or even songs that anybody knows.
Can I tell you? Should I tell you guys the best part about this concert going experience, other than me buying apparently the cheapest tickets possible and cramping us into literally the last row in Wells Fargo Arena? My knees don't fit. So at one point, Shai leans over to me in the 3rd song, and he asks me,
Whispers
in my ear. Is that, like, which one's the Johnny Greenwood, the
Because
guitarist?
we were pretty far away. It was hard to tell.
And the guy next to us literally goes, can you guys keep it to a minimum?
No.
I have never
No.
hated anyone more in my life.
You know
Like
what,
it's a
Josh?
The next
library.
20
Josh,
minutes were
you
spent with...
deserve that
I mean,
for going to see Radiohead.
Radio Fire.
I don't know why you expected anything else. I really want to get really want to move on to hear Josh's list.
Oh yeah. So then when we were bringing Josh back,
That's a great way to start the list.
That was my first complaint.
When we were
the shushing guy.
when we were bringing
At a
back
concert.
Josh, we couldn't. We were like, oh, what could our theme be? And then I said, you know what? Josh always has a list of complaints. So this is now a new segment. It is known as Josh's Complaints, and I would like to dedicate it to our dear friend Ilana Osten, who always listens to the show every week. Who I was getting her psyched up that this week who's also a good friend of Josh and mine from our childhood. That we will dedicate Josh's Complaints to her this week. So Ilana, enjoy some good old-fashioned Josh complaints.
Okay, so I'm going to let you guys choose a complaint, and I will give it to you first. I'll give you the topics, okay?
All right, Lily and Becky, you can choose.
You guys can choose. One is about Star Wars. One, well, you just heard Radio Fire. One is about Ready Player One, the movie. One...
Ooh, Ready Player One. I just watched it.
Yeah, me too. I just saw it. I'd
All
love
right.
to hear that complaint.
My complaint about that movie, other than it being a travesty and a flaming pile of poop relative to the book, is that the music selection was so awful in that movie. They tried so hard to make it match from like an 80s pop culture perspective, and I just felt like they were crashing together two horrible things. Like they so departed from the goodness of the book. The movie, aside from me hating the movie, the music was a complete disaster.
One thing that bothered me about the music, now granted I slept for about 25 minutes in the middle of it, Didn't feel like
You
I
didn't
missed,
miss anything. It's fine.
I missed the whole car chase in the DeLorean. Did they, in fact, use Tom Sawyer in the movie, or was that only in the commercial?
Only in the commercial.
Only
They
in
did
the
not use it.
commercial.
In
I
the
don't think
movie.
they used that in the movie.
It's like they took
just
this-
watched
Don't do
it.
that to a
I
Rush fan. Don't do that to a Rush fan. Don't put Rush
But that
in the
happens
commercial.
all the time where the trailers
I'm-
are so much better than
but
the
not
movie.
with Rush.
I'm really excited. Let's remember how much we hated the music in this movie when we later talk about Love, Simon, a movie where I loved the music.
All right,
So,
keep going down Josh's list.
All right.
Yes.
The only thing I'll leave you with is it was like they took the music out of Stranger Things and they were like, oh, that was cool. Let's put it in Ready Player One.
Just put it at the same
All right.
pace without any
Next,
regret.
so the remaining topics are Star Wars, something about watching movies on a plane, Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Jay-Z and Beyonce.
Yeah, movies on a
All
plane.
right.
I just got off of like 23
Okay.
hours.
Let's do
flight.
Jay-Z and back to plane.
And
I
to
just
plane.
went on a 17-hour trip too, but I went.
All right.
So
Okay. Right.
Yeah.
Jay-Z and Beyonce. Here's my deal. I have two complaints about Jay-Z and Beyonce. So first of all, I'm not like I actually really like Jay-Z. I'm not the biggest Beyonce fan, but I can recognize that I'm seeing like the Madonna of our era or even bigger. Beyonce's amazing. She like blows your mind. The sound was terrible, all that stuff, but it was still cool to see her. Two complaints. One is I don't know what Jay-Z brings to this party. Like if
That's
you just
exactly
pulled
what
him
my friend
out
just
of the
said. That
show,
she went to
I'm
see
like-
him.
And I like
She was
Jay-Z's
like, "Why is
music,
there
but
that
I'm
guy
like,
with that giant chain on his neck?" She was like, "It's weighing him down, and Beyonce is doing all the work."
Just
and he's
show me,
walking around
just show me
on
Beyonce.
stage.
Just show me Beyonce
Exactly.
for 2 hours. And the second is that they don't play any song to its completion. It's like 1.5 minutes of every song. Let's move on. I'm like,
Really, that's hilarious.
Did they play Young Forever? The Forever Young?
we had already departed by that point because we needed to get home to the
Wait,
babysitter.
did you
and it
even
was
stay for the whole concert?
Well, so they play the exact same set list every night, and so we knew exactly when we could
What
leave
you were
to-
missing?
Yeah, what we
Yeah.
were missing, and we had an hour drive, and we were already an hour late for the babysitter. So that was my complaint about Jay-Z and Beyonce, but Beyonce is quite impressive, I will say. Here's my complaint about the plane. I don't know what to do, and you guys may have talked about this.
Wait, I
because
just
you're-
want to let's dial back on Jay-Z for a second. I want to just reestablish Josh's cred. Josh was the first person who told me about Jay-Z. Not that I hadn't heard Jay-Z songs, but the whole notion of like Jay-Z as the Mozart of rap, and played me the Jay-Z Unplugged that he did. Like, I would 100%
I
want to
love
see
Jay-Z.
Jay-Z in like a club with a live band doing his songs from beginning to end. But
The two of them together is just
Right.
like
The
useless.
Jay-Z spectacle.
Yeah.
Is what we're
I
not
just
into.
don't know what he brings to that party. Beyonce is crazy. Like, she,
Oh,
and
yeah.
she's like
I mean-
pregnant. I don't know.
I think it's okay for Josh. Like, these reviews coming from Josh, it is true. I feel like if you don't understand the amount of street cred Josh has, you might be like slightly offended by these reviews. But for those of us on the podcast, we really do trust Josh's judgment and understand.
I do love.
It's
Like,
hilarious.
I think the Black Album is a masterpiece by Jay-Z. And like I said, if he was playing an unplugged show with the Roots, that would be amazing. But this party, I'm like, I don't get it. So here's my complaint about the airplane. And you guys may have talked about this because you are a traveling pop culture podcasting family. I do not know what to do with the warning of, please be wary of the person sitting next to you because the movie you're about to watch will have sexual scenes in it.
Right.
Am I supposed to ask that person, do you fast forward that scene and then you're
That's
like,
a
your
warning?
finger
I
on the
thought
thing?
you got the
There is a warning now.
I
Oh,
thought
I
the
didn't
warning
know
was
that.
just that they
I
edit the
didn't
movie.
realize that.
No, it's not that
No, they
edit it. It's
don't.
like,
Wow.
don't watch,
They let you know there could be like a minor sitting next to you. Like there could be someone who's not comfortable.
Well, I think it's fair, like, to be aware if you are sitting next to.
But
a
here's
little
the thing,
kid.
guys. Have
we
you
all-
ever tried to watch somebody else's screen when you're sitting next to them? What they really should say, be aware that 3 rows behind you to the right, somebody might not want to see this movie. Because nobody can see the goddamn screen next to you.
Okay, but
It's
come on.
like has like a double mirror vision thing going.
Have we
But
all
I
had-
watched an entire simultaneous movie at the exact same time, 4 rows ahead on the aisle. I watched my movie and her movie.
I do that
'cause
too.
I could
You
see
have
that
to do-
screen perfectly.
But have you not had that awkward moment where you're watching the movie and all of a sudden the sex scene comes on and you're like, do I fast forward this? I don't know what this person's sleeping. Or are they watching it? It's going to be really uncomfortable.
I have that if I'm watching on the iPad because but I don't think I have it as much. I'm sorry, I have to just stop there. This is,
All right. I have one more complaint. Here's
Yeah.
my complaint, and it's the Star Wars complaint. So I have Star Wars shirts. I love Star Wars. I am probably not as like deeply immersed in the world of Star Wars as maybe Shy or you guys. But so when I wear my Star Wars shirts, everyone comes up to me and they're like, "Oh man, did you see the last movies?" And I'm like the Debbie Downer of Star Wars movies. Everyone's like so excited about Solo or The Last Jedi. I'm like, I hated those movies. It's a disaster. It's a big complaint of mine that those movies were so bad.
So those movies are ruining your
wardrobe.
your t-shirt wearing experience.
I'm
is that the complaint?
The complaint is that the movies were bad, and now it's impacting me socially because people want to tell me how much they
From
love the movie
strangers.
and connect.
It's impacting
Yes.
your relationship with strangers.
I will say, because enough people know about my Last Jedi kind of fixation.
Yeah, same.
We'll be like at dinner parties, and Al will be like, someone will mention The Last Jedi, and I'll be like, stop. He's gonna start cycling up.
Yeah. Well, I see what you mean by socially, because I've been around people that like I'm friends with, and they're like lovely people or something, and I have like someone from work that I know, like who obviously I know them from work, but they're really cool guy. He's a really cool guy, huge Star Wars fan. And the other day I never had really talking to him about it, and the other day he mentioned it, and I was like, yeah, this piece of crap, right? And he was like, no, and I was like, nope.
See, you ruined someone's day. So it's not just strangers,
nope,
it's friends
too. No,
because you don't want to ruin it.
I was like, no, I'm not doing this.
You don't want to ruin it. I will say this: I don't want to ruin it for other people. I will debate it with other people.
I was like,
but if a kid saw Last Jedi, the same way if a kid saw The Phantom Menace and loved it, I'm not gonna go like try to convince them not to like it, because as a kid who loved the Return of the Jedi and the Ewoks, I always get annoyed when people try to tell me that the Ewoks were dumb. I'm like, I don't care what you're talking about. As far as I'm concerned, they are intergalactic heroes. So I will debate, as many people have debated with me, people who we can have a conversation about the merits of The Last Jedi, but I'm not going to go and like try to ruin it for somebody. I think that's not fair. I have to be respectful of people.
But I can't lie and say that I liked Solo.
Be careful around my parents. My parents love that movie. They kept trying to make me go see it in the theater.
And actually, I recently found out that Vlad wanted to go see it. We never went to go see it, but my husband wanted to go see it.
Oh, that's a renter. I won't not rent it.
Yeah,
it's worth a rent.
None of us have seen it, and Mom and Dad loved it. We could rent it on this upcoming vacation.
Put it this way. They just announced that they're going to do one more animated season of Clone Wars, and I am far more excited for that and what that will bring to the Star Wars story than Han Solo on a heist with the Khaleesi. Although I do want to know about that Chewbacca hug.
Yeah.
That's a letdown.
Just everything in that movie is a letdown.
Okay, so now let's talk about a movie. We all watched, and I give Josh a lot of credit because I gave him very last minute notice. We all watched Love, Simon this week, which has come up multiple times, mostly because of our Lily's and my love of the band Bleachers.
Hey, my love too.
Oh, Becky's love too.
I love the Bleachers too, and I was thinking about I told you show for the Bleachers. I love them.
Okay,
I totally get that.
I'm gonna say though that I can't separate like all my emotions towards this band. There's a whole thing about the fact that like they're from Jersey and they're so proud to be from Jersey, and I don't know why that like I feel like they're so admirable for that. Like they embrace their Jerseyness. The writing is just such great pop music. The actual there's so many instruments in the song, so I'm impressed.
And apparently like Donnie was like the bar mitzvah animator at like Jack Antonoff's bar mitzvah or something like that. That's not true. I think
but they know the families know each other. The families know each other.
They're from Jersey. Everyone from Jersey. We're literally all the Jews from Jersey know each other.
Exactly. We're one removed from this band by Jewish geography.
You should listen to the Jack Antonoff Song Exploder episode where he actually breaks down one of the Bleacher songs. Very good.
Oh, fun. I will. And I think also the fact that this is probably the first band I can think of in like 100 years that me, Becky, and Shy all simultaneously like equally at any given time in our lives, because it's mostly us trying to force each other to listen. As much as we love and get along with movies and stuff, I would say music, we're kind of always on a different page, and it makes me very happy that like I know right now when I'm listening to them, I'm like, I can listen to this band right now, and Becky too, at any moment.
All that to say, the soundtrack for Love, Simon is very Bleachers heavy.
Yes.
So
it was
like
good
3
soundtrack.
songs.
I don't know the Bleachers, but it was good.
But Josh, you're gonna love them. Love them.
I think you will like this one.
Yeah, and they're good music videos, and that's something you just can't get these days. So,
okay, so let's talk about the movie.
Yeah,
Lily,
Love, Simon. I have a few issues, but yeah.
Becky, how about this?
With the movie.
Since you know how to, you give us like a little recap and your first reaction, and then we'll go around the horn.
Okay, this is a teen movie high school coming of age story about a group of friends, and it focuses around one friend's particular story arc and journey. But the thing that makes it different from a lot of other teen movies, or from all other teen movies, is that it is both mainstream and a coming out story. And typically you'd either have a mainstream teen movie about a group of high school friends, or you might have a more art house film about a teenager coming out. But this is really, I mean, it's the first example I've seen of it, where you have a mainstream movie about a high school kid coming out.
It is the first one, for sure.
Yes.
And I think one of the things it does. So I would say I really like this movie a lot. I thought the acting was great. I thought, kind of like Blockers, the teenagers were
exactly
huge
That's exactly
strength.
my notes.
Huge strength.
They're
I mean,
such good kids.
they were good actors, and they were really
they're great characters.
Had a lot of different dimensions. I really like the guy who played Simon, Nick Robinson.
Oh, he was wonderful.
He was terrific.
And this made me think of what we talked about with Mike Roberts last week. Like, I don't want to make it sound like the writing isn't good or anything like that, and the script or the idea isn't good. But a huge part of why I liked the part so much, I liked the movie so much, was this kid.
I think
such a good actor. Yes,
exactly.
Agreed. The acting is better than the writing.
A lot, right? And I think that I was so
But I also feel
captivated
that way
by
for
the part.
For the Martin character, the theater character, who's like this annoying kind of like semi creep. The reason why his character works is because of the acting. Very much so.
Yeah, and his character actually harkens back. His character is a really upsetting character. I don't want to give spoilers, but he reminds me of in the 80s. In movies like Fast Times at Ridgemont High, where you had a bad guy that was charming at certain times, but also sad at the same times. Like, kind of, it's like you felt bad for his character, but his character really is a terrible person.
Like an 80s movie.
Right, but he's really kind of awful and very selfish. But you still kind of like him, and at the same time you feel bad for him, and that makes you kind of like him or forgive his horrible actions.
I think that's it. You can forgive his horrible actions because it was sad.
Because, you feel bad for him. But what he does is pretty horrible.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't be friends with that kid after what he did, but I would hope he learned his lesson and wasn't such a jerk.
I like that they're not friends.
And,
He's like, get away from me.
And so why don't we go through favorite or just things that struck you about the movie throughout. I have a big list here that I could either go down. Lily, do you have a rapid fire list? I feel like you usually have a rapid fire list to go through.
I will. I have like a rapid. I have a few like tiny complaints about the movie that made me a bit. Took me out of the movie. Yeah. So
okay.
I would say like my other rapid fire are very random things. It's not like I love the movie, but maybe you want to start.
Okay, so I'll start with some rapid fire things. Okay, first of all, Alli asked the question of co-ed sleepovers. She's like, would you be letting your kid do a co-ed sleepover at like 16 years old?
Well, if you thought that they had been friends since they were, 5 or 6 years old, of course.
Put it this way. If my kid and Josh's kid are doing sleepovers in the same room when they're teenagers, not really an issue.
God willing.
So yeah, Josh and I would let our kids as teenagers who have grown up together have a sleepover in the same room. So
That's
I guess
the same thing in this movie. They've been friends since they were little kids.
They're 5 years old. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's another thing. Okay. Next.
They were trying to be super progressive with a lot of the things.
So the parents were definitely like
the teacher, the parents.
The adults were sort of a little
bit. It's like blockers. The adults are like inappropriate and kind of annoying, but the kids are really awesome.
The adults were odd. So I loved the casting of Jennifer Garner, and then I liked Josh Duhamel as the jock version of Timothy Oliphant because he looked almost exactly like him throughout the whole movie.
It's true.
But his acting chops are not the same. Sorry.
His acting chops are not the same, but at the end of the movie, when there's a lot of cathartic conversations, I feel like he had to deliver one big scene. What do you think?
I think he totally delivered that scene.
You do?
I do.
I wish he didn't cry because I was like, "You're fake crying."
The fake crying was too much, but I thought the point of that scene was really meaningful. And I think, like, I don't know how deep into spoilers we want to go, but the.
I think people
you know,
figure out that if it's a coming out story, I guess the
No,
dad.
but yeah,
So.
I mean, no, but I just mean like his reaction of being like, if you've known since you were whatever age, that's how many years I haven't been able to be here for you.
Right.
And I thought that was a really great way of thinking about it, or showing how a parent might think about it to a kid, is that, you know, it's look at all the number of years I haven't been able to support you, because ultimately that's what the parents want to do. They just want to support their kid.
So yeah, that's right. And then Jennifer Garner was awesome.
Don't you think she should be the mom in all movies and all everything? I just love her.
Just be in every movie.
So the first time I saw Jennifer Garner was on Josh and my couch in college in Dude, Where's My Car?
Not 13 going on 30.
Dude, Where's My Car was before that.
My favorite movie.
Her and Marla Sokoloff were in Dude, Where's My Car? And I think Jennifer Garner in this movie and in a bunch of other movies where I think Juno's another one, where she's really playing an adult. I think she really crushes these roles where she's playing different types of
have you seen her in
grown-ups.
Butter? Have you guys
Oh,
seen her
yeah,
in
she's
Butter?
amazing in Butter.
don't like that
amazing in
movie,
that.
but love her in it.
She's great in it.
Butter's a cool movie.
I like that movie.
So another great casting move in it is the Kid Flash is what's the name of the kid who
Bram.
says Bram, the kid who says
Bram.
he's Hawaiian Barack Obama for Halloween.
Yeah.
He's post when he dresses up as Barack Obama on vacation in Hawaii.
Kanan Lonsdale.
So he
his
plays Kid Flash on The Flash, and I thought he was awesome in this, and it was great to see him in a totally different role. And in fact, in some ways, you know, I love my CW shows, but I think that he was here in a situation where he got to do more real acting and probably a sort of less formulaic kind of story, and I really enjoyed him a lot more in this, and I do like him a lot in The Flash, but he was even better in this. All right, we talked about Martin. I've never been a Waffle House guy. I'm an IHOP guy. We could probably have a whole show on that, but I really wanted to go eat at Waffle House after they went to Waffle House.
I know they have waffle.
IHOP.
They do French toast for Christmas dinner or whatever. Or like there's just a lot of breakfast food in this movie.
A lot of delicious looking food.
So throughout the movie, also there are multiple references to a character being Jewish, and I kept asking myself,
so many Jewish characters.
Yeah, I was like, wait a minute, is this guy Jewish? There's a lot of Christmas stuff going on in his house. Why do people keep referencing bar mitzvahs and things? I couldn't really figure out who was supposed to be Jewish. And then
I kept being like, where do they live?
I just feel like
this many multicultural kids and Jews, and what part of the country?
I don't know. I
biggest
felt like
houses
as
I've
far
ever
as
seen.
So
as far as representation goes, I feel like this movie really broke the mold in showing how many Jewish kids there just could be in your life.
Look how many Jews you can have in your life.
Everyone can be Jewish in your
Without
life. You don't even know.
So
Without spoiling it, at one point when the main character turns to another character and he's like, "So wait, you're black?" and he's like, "and Jewish," and he's like, "I'm okay with that." Like, I just thought that was so funny. The random like Jewish character thing was hilarious.
So you guys just touched on something though that was part of how I felt about this movie was the first 30 minutes I actually really did not like, and then the movie completely turned it around for me because the first 30 minutes I felt like they were trying to like. I'm like, where do these kids live? Who are they driving around with their like iced coffees, over sexualized? I'm like, what teacher says that kind of stuff to kids?
Exactly.
Buster Bluth. I'm like, why does that character have to be in this movie? And then they went serious into like the like emotional part of the story and the character development. It got significantly better, but that was the cutoff point for me from day one to day two, and I almost didn't finish it because I was like, why am I watching this thing?
So they try really hard in the first like 30 minutes.
When we talk about the downsides of this movie, it is trying really hard to paint this privileged utopia of teenagehood.
I was like, no kid's gonna relate to this.
Which I think for a mainstream teen movie is what you're gonna get right now. You're not gonna really get anything that different.
And I liked the fact that before we go into like the downsides, I like the fact that the girls in the movie, I like the way that they represent the girls in the movie. I don't know how to explain it, but I like the way they look. I like the way they talk. Like,
Yep, I agree.
you know what I mean? It's refreshing. As much as it's like hokey and mainstream, I was like, oh look, another movie where they're teenagers and they kind of act and speak and look and dress relatively normally, and like physically they look normally.
But,
not like
but the girls in this
emaciated.
one even more so than in Blockers.
Right?
Really,
even
truly,
more
even
so.
more so
Yeah.
than in Blockers. Yeah, they really didn't look
Like
more
normal, which is great. And but can I say that? And I don't know, maybe Josh, you'll agree because you said the beginning bugged you. But one of the things that took me out of the movies, and then it made the lines that I couldn't get out of my head, and then I wondered if it's because of it's just like this new generation. It makes me feel really old, or it's just the way movies are written now. But when he's describing his utopia of being a teenager, and they go hang out, and they go to the Waffle House, he says, "And we gorge ourselves on carbs." Is that a thing that a high schooler would say now? Because that would never be in a movie when we were kids.
Think about this line.
because like carbs are like bad, and so that's
We just
the way.
gorge ourselves on carbs because we're teenagers and we don't like gain weight.
And we don't
This was
care
my-
when we're not
understand
gonna
that
get
line.
that.
So that is like pinpoints where I feel like the acting is better than the writing. Like the line, "We don't analyze dreams before coffee." I'm like, who says that?
Exactly. Like seriously.
Like trying too hard, I felt.
Right.
Can I ask you guys a question? Who do you think? So this is like a high school movie that we would have watched in high school. But as a parent watching it, I thought it was a different perspective, right? To see how everybody handles it. Do you think it'll be more impactful for adults and parents watching this, or like high school kids today watching this?
I wonder if I liked it so much because I'm a parent. Like I wondered if I was a kid, would I have liked it so much?
I think this would be a
felt
great
like
question to ask. Yeah, to ask.
Like I
Sean,
wonder
maybe
what
we need to ask
Summer, what Summer
thinks
thinks of it.
All right, Summer is our official teenage correspondent. Summer, I will
Because I
send
think as a
her a note
parent,
and she'll report
yeah.
back. That's the Summer Parker on Twitter and Instagram. We will write to her as the official teenager perspective. I have. So let's get into some of the things that were. So I had a few complaints about the movie. One of them is that Becky told me it was an hour and a half, and it was definitely almost 2 hours. So I like.
It's an 11-hour plane ride. Do you think I know?
Like in the air, it's shorter.
In fairness,
In the
it's
plane.
1
As far
hour
as I
and
can
49
tell,
minutes.
like
10
Ready
minutes of
Player
credits.
One, which I also watched on the flight, could have been 30 minutes or 4.5 hours.
That thing was
I don't
4.5
know.
hours. It's terrible.
And so that was. And the other thing is this, and I love Tony Hale. He's amazing. His character was both out of place and inappropriate. And I don't think in any scenario the way he was talking to kids in that at any
Is
point
okay.
Like I
It's
think
not- yeah.
like I would want that guy fired and not near my kids at any point in that movie. And
For sure.
It was like
Agreed. Super creepy.
Why have that in the movie? Adds nothing.
I think there's like some weird thing. They try to make it funny for parents. I don't know what it is. Like the adults act
Be like,
stupid
look
and
how
gross.
out of touch the adults are. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, like,
Yeah,
they're
maybe.
so out of touch that this guy is like, and it actually doesn't even
Can
make
be
sense.
arrested for.
Yeah, he should be arrested for the way he talks to kids.
Maybe
And then,
Mindhunter.
yeah, exactly. Okay, all right. So buy, rent, or meh.
Buy. Definitely gonna buy it.
Buying it.
I like it. I would
give it a
watch it
buy.
again.
I would watch it again.
I give it a buy overall. I give it a buy. I was like a buy to rent, not because I didn't like it, but I don't necessarily think I would have like seen it in the theater per se, but having it in my video collection, yes, this is a movie I want to see.
It was
again.
solid enough.
And I would
Yeah,
see,
for
and I would
sure.
watch it again. Like if it was on, especially like a half hour into the movie, and I was guaranteed like an hour and 20 minutes. Like if it pops on an HBO, I'm definitely probably going to watch all the way to the end. So yeah, so okay, so it's a buy. Alrighty, now I guess we can go on to recommendations. Does anyone have any? I have some stuff to discuss.
Yes, I see you have a lengthy list.
I've just been watching per Lily's recommendation. I've been watching Glow season 2, loving it, very happy
great.
with that. And I watched. I don't know if I brought this up a couple weeks ago. I don't think so. I started watching Sacha Baron Cohen's Who Is America.
Yeah,
Oh, right.
I
Tried.
we tried.
So-
we turned it off.
It's pain. I actually watch it, but without looking at the screen. I actually look sideways and have just my husband describe to me what's going on because it's so painful and cringeworthy to watch it. If you can get to episode 3 is the one where I genuinely just like laughed the whole time, but it's excruciating to watch.
Episode 1, we kind of just felt
Wasn't
bad
fun-
for a couple.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't funny.
I felt bad
Yeah.
for all of the subjects, and then we turned it off. Like it was, you know what? It was really funny when he did Ali G the first time and Borat and Bruno the first time, but at a certain point,
Yeah, but what do you
didn't
think about
make-
the fact that he's like perhaps impacting like politics in maybe a good way?
but the first,
I don't-
first episode.
Politics.
Well,
I
he
don't
got
think so.
that one congressman had to resign.
So we
That guy sounds like
I
an
didn't-
asshole.
I didn't
so
get that
that's
far.
good.
I didn't get that far into the story, but I think he's brilliant. But I thought it was overall all of the segments, whether they were liberal or conservative, I thought they were like mean spirited, not funny, and we just stopped
but
watching.
really, there's one bit in the 3rd episode that is one of
Okay.
the funniest things I've ever seen. So it's horrible, but very funny, and I do recommend it. It's about some very, very racist men that he tricks, and it's pretty incredible to
So
see.
that was the problem with part 1, right? So first he does Bernie Sanders, and that's whatever. Bernie Sanders doesn't bite, and then he just, whether I agree with their politics or not, he's kind of just being an asshole to two people. And then
Yeah.
he goes into like an art gallery and shows art with his own poop
Yeah,
to
that
a
was
random lady. I'm
horrible.
like, why would you?
That's
So yeah, I was also trying to figure out. I was like,
That was
is this
so
just a
weird.
hidden camera show? Is this supposed to have a point? Like, I
didn't get the Who
I
is
didn't
America
like
part
that
of
at
that.
all.
right.
So
yeah,
that's what I'm
that's
saying,
it.
'cause I don't really feel like I'm recommending it because I haven't quite liked it, but there are bits here and there which genuinely have made me laugh very hard.
It gets a hard meh for me.
Yeah, I can put it in the meh category. I don't feel like I need to push it.
Okay. Can I say mine?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. You guys all know how I feel about the Marvel Universe. So
Please, you haven't
you
watched
like
Infinity War
tell
yet,
us
right?
one more
Because
time?
I want to be there for it, and then the world needs to.
I'm
hear
not
you.
watching that movie.
No, we're
When
gonna
I
watch it
read
together
an
on
article,
vacation.
remember one day I opened up Huffington Post, went to the entertainment section, and it said, "Infinity War. All the superheroes are dead," or something like that. Like they all die at the end. I literally was like, "Oh my god, is it my birthday? Is it a miracle?"
Lily's
I was
the
like,
only person.
There's no more of these movies. All of them are dead. I turned around and I was like,
Ant-Man
"Muzzle
was
tough,
fine."
everyone."
Lily's the
And then
only
I read-
person who thinks that Infinity War Part 1 is just the whole movie. And she's just happy that it's over at that point.
And they're all dead. But my dad is like, no, I was having dinner with my uncle last night, Tio Mario. Shout out to Tio Mario.
Tio Mario.
Last
Father
night.
of cousins Mindy and Shelly.
Shelly. And he was chit-chatting with my husband about the show that he's watching, and there's martial arts, and like that's enough to get my
Is it
husband
Badlands?
into it. No, it's not. And
That's a
so
great
he's
show.
'Cause he's the one who got me into Badlands.
He's into Badlands. So that's what I thought he was talking about, which I've seen. And he starts like talking or whatever, and my dad is around. So like the guests leave, that we had for dinner, except Danielle stayed, our cousin Danielle, which was like super cute. She stayed and snuggled up with us to watch this show. And my dad puts on, he's like, "I'm gonna put on like the show that Mario had said," and I was like, "Okay, it sounds cool, martial artist, whatever." And then all of a sudden on the giant screen it goes Marvel. I was like, "No, guys, no."
Oh,
no.
is it
Iron
Iron
Fist?
Fist?
And Fist, yeah.
I watched
Iron
that whole
Fist.
series.
I haven't even watched that one.
And it was like entertaining enough. The first episode, it's like super hokey though. Like
Lily,
you can tell.
Did you
Lily.
keep thinking it was the guy from that 70s show?
No, I did not.
That's what he looks like.
Because this guy is British.
Lily, you need to watch. So if you want to watch a good martial arts show that Tio Mario turned me on to, start with
Into the Badlands.
season 2 of Into the Badlands. You can go back and watch season 1 after you've seen season 2. Season 2 of Into the Badlands, the fight scenes in that show are amazing. Okay.
Wait, my other rec is you told me to watch Broadchurch, which is extremely difficult and tough because the subject matter, but the acting, you were like, just stick with it because the acting. And I'm on season 2 and it's awesome. Like the acting just pulls you in, and this great writing, great acting.
Your dad
and
described that to me, and I just don't know if I can do it emotionally.
I don't know who would ever watch this show. Like, I don't understand why they made it, but
Alli
it's
loved
really good. Like, it's really good once you get into it. Because Alli has a weird thing for that Doctor Who guy.
Oh yeah, Alli loves
That's
David
fine.
Tennant. She's like, David Tennant is the sexiest man alive. It's like him and Telly Savalas. Those two guys.
She also loves
Have you
Terrence
seen what-
Howard a lot.
And when you've
Terrence
seen what
Howard.
I look like, I look nothing like Telly Savalas,
No,
David Tennant,
exactly.
Terrence Howard,
Terrence Howard.
or Charlie Hunnam. That's like Allie's Mount Rushmore of hot men. None of them.
She has such strange taste.
She is an odd duck, that one. But as Mom says, there's a lid to every pot.
A pot to every lid. And I watched some in following in the Becky Shy tradition. And Josh, you should be very pleased. I watched a fair amount of season 2 Chuck on my plane trip.
Come on, season 2 Chuck is
Chuck is
so
amazing.
good. Season 2 Chuck
We
is
know,
so
Josh.
good.
We know.
I love
My
that.
only
Becky's all in.
my only
Yeah.
questionable issue with it is like the extent to which Lester and Jeff are sexual predators, and that's like glorified.
Yeah.
in
Yeah,
This is
that kind of
before
they
the
play
Me
that
Too
up a little
movement.
more. in season 2.
Pretty outdated, that bit.
Yeah. Well, but
Not
in the
quite
end, have you gotten to the part where they find out why Jeff has had like
I'm on that episode now.
where they find out that it's because
Yep.
there's been a leak in his van all these years, and that's
Oh, no, that I didn't know.
You're
No,
probably
no,
at the
no.
video game part.
So you'll see.
I'm at the video game part, yeah.
Eventually, although you're right, those characters are way out of date. But eventually, there's like a schism between Les and Jeff and Lester, because you find out that like Jeff behaves the way he behaves because there's been a carbon monoxide
He's
leak.
actually
in
like a
his-
savant.
and he's actually like a genius, and he starts distancing himself from Lester, and Lester really is the bad guy.
But the show is really repetitive, so I'm impressed that you guys like
I
it
love
so
it.
much.
It's about the
But
characters.
it's mostly
Love
I
the
literally watch
characters.
20 minutes before I fall asleep every day. I'm like doling
I
it out
have-
slowly.
For another, if we had more time, I could go into a little bit of what are the rules, because there's some like what are the rules when it comes to the intersect by the time you get to season 5.
Oh yeah, the intersect
At first, it
doesn't make
takes
any
an
sense.
entire
Yeah.
night for him to download it, and now you just like put on a pair of sunglasses and you're like, I'm an intersect.
It gets updated.
There's
updates.
You have to suspend reality for the fun character.
The show peaks,
I-
in my view, in season
Yes,
3.
my suspend reality where you have a spy that's like got giant boobs and she never wears a bra. Because I watch her bounce around
always-
and
She
I'm
wears a
like,
lot of lingerie.
where's your bra?
a lot of lingerie, and she's always in high heels.
Yeah.
And that
I am
actress is
often
amazing,
wondering.
Yvonne Strahovski.
Didn't she just win an Emmy?
She was nominated.
Handmaid's
Tale.
Nominated.
She was nominated.
Nominated
Either
for
way.
Handmaid's
Guys, gotta kind of start wrapping up.
all
My
right,
team's crying.
All right, so recommendations. I recommend the cartoon show Gargoyles. I have been watching it with the kids. That came out in the 90s when we were like teenagers, and
Yeah.
Josh
I definitely
actually
watched
gave
it.
me
I
the
like this
DVD
show.
set that I'm watching, and we watched the 5-part opening series, so it's almost like a TV movie of like 5 episodes back to back. It is awesome. The kids loved it. I loved it. The voice cast is amazing. Keith David, Jonathan Frakes, the woman who played Counselor Troy on Star Trek The Next Generation. And through Twitter, I found out that dear friend of the show, Gato, and his wife, when they were teenagers and they knew each other, they used to watch Gargoyles together. And that makes Gargoyles even
That's
cooler.
really cute.
So sending lots of gargoyle love to Gato and his family. I want to talk about, I just want to say Money Heist, Lily. We're watching it. We love it.
Yeah.
It's super fun.
I'm so happy that
it's
you're
like
watching it.
it's totally like a soap opera and a heist at
It
the same
is.
time.
It is.
But
Josh,
what
I
has-
recommend you to watch this show.
What has now made it more
Mm-hmm.
fun, though, is that Pam of the Herspiration Happy Hour is watching it also. and go-
Amazing. I brought the show to the United States, people.
The Money Heist.
And Pam's reactions are amazing. So all I have to say to Pam is Team Nairobi rules. That's the team I'm
Where
on.
can one find the Money Heist?
Netflix.
Netflix?
It's in Spanish, though,
Oh, Jesus.
with subtitles. You can watch it
But
with
it's
dub. You can watch
good.
it dubbed
But
also.
there's not that much talking.
Yeah.
There's, and then I'll just say, Josh gave me this article to read and podcast episode of Bill Simmons' podcast of the 100 Best Episodes of TV of the 20th Century, and it sent me into a rage spiral. But to Bill Simmons' credit, he knows what he's doing. Because
Rage Spiral, Last Jedi style.
like, just okay. Can I just say something about some of the shows that I have no, okay, shows, this is controversial, shows that I think are totally overrated for being defining shows of this, era. The Sopranos. Amazing, game-changing show, fine. 2 good seasons in The Sopranos as far as I'm concerned. The first 2, amazing. After that, really, I couldn't care less what happens to those characters. Game of Thrones, also a big deal, but hardly that big. And on top of that, the episode they picked as the best episode from Game of Thrones was the Red Wedding, and I don't we've talked about how I feel about that episode. Also, because there's the Battle of the Bastards, there's the Battle of
Battle of the Bastards are pretty amazing.
That's the
Game
best
of Thrones
episode.
is important because it's basically a movie once a week.
Okay, fine. Mad Men, which I watched 6 episodes and is unwatchable as far as I'm concerned.
I'm in that industry and I can watch that either.
I cannot stand that show.
Curb Your Enthusiasm. People are loyal to the comic genius of Curb Your Enthusiasm. I have only been able to watch 2 episodes of it. I cannot stomach
It's a pretty
it.
funny show. But it's not as good as they
That
say.
show makes me really believe that Larry David is the genius behind Jerry Seinfeld. I gotta tell you.
My buddy ran into him in a bar and spent an hour and a half with Larry David.
Oh, really? Okay. That's
Get
Apparently
out.
nice guy.
Oh, okay, well, that's nice to know. And the fact that they had so many non-Kardashian or Top Chef or British baking show reality shows, those guys in the Bill Simmons world like reality TV way too much.
I will give them the challenge because back in the day, the challenge was a very fun show to watch.
And then I just want to complain about some of the snubs. So they snubbed comedy in general, except making a big deal about Curb Your Enthusiasm's place on the list. There was no Chuck, and I would throw in the Chuck Thailand episode. Becky, you've seen
I actually
it?
wanted to tweet at him and see if he'd
yes.
ever watched it because I feel like you would like that show.
The Chuck. I think Fringe. I think there's a number of episodes of Fringe. I'm going down the list of I Told You shows that Josh has. Fringe, the finale, or the 3rd season when Peter disappears at the end, when he has to disappear to save
Fringe
everyone.
is going on after Chuck in terms of keeping me sane in the world.
Guys, I feel like this conversation is a whole episode.
Li-
And
okay,
maybe
I'll
we
stop.
Need to wrap
I
it
just
up.
worked up over
I
it.
just have one little
Yeah,
recommendation.
it's just
you know?
this is really long.
Let Josh continue.
Sorry, Josh. Finish.
Can I give you my so my recommend? This has nothing to do with the 100 best TV shows. I'm just.
Oh
gonna
no,
give you guys
yeah,
my
your recommendation. I was saying I want to move on to your recommendations.
Fair
I don't
enough.
need to hear
we
Shy
recently
have
watched two things. So one of them Danielle watched with me, which is Fauda season 2, which is not as good as season 1, but still super intense and a good
So
watch.
that's a show you have to watch with subtitles.
Yes, I know, and it's as Danielle. I'm like, oh god, I can't multitask. And then I would also recommend a little-known show called The Expanse. It's on. It's on
Netflix.
Amazon,
Awesome.
I think.
Oh, Amazon.
And
It was on another
basically-
network, and then it got saved.
Yeah, I
by
think it was
Amazon.
on Sci-Fi, and then it got picked up.
All right.
Yeah, now
You
it's
can always
Halle
count on you,
Berry.
Josh, for a good sci-fi
but it
recommendation.
is a film noir meets political thriller with a little bit of Battlestar Galactica thrown in there. But I think it was really well done. There's 2 seasons
match
out
up.
there.
All right,
The Expanse.
and shout-outs.
Crickets.
Okay, fine. I have a list. So we're going to see Fish tonight and tomorrow, or I'm going to tomorrow. Josh and the fam, we're taking the kids to see Fish tonight, and I want to give a shout out to, I don't know her full name, Becky Mayyyyy, because she spells it with a lot of Y's. And in fairness, I am in her contacts as Pancake. So, but she is a friend of Jacqui Kaplan, who's been on the show, and she's gonna meet the Pancake family at the Fish show. So here's a shout out in advance, and to Brandon, my good buddy and neighbor, and Katie, also good buddy and neighbor, who are coming with us. Again, I want to retroactive thank you to Mike Roberts for coming on last episode. Everyone should go back and check that one out if you haven't heard it yet. That's a really cool one. And then of course to cousin Vanessa. That's what I got in terms of shout outs. Anybody else?
Yeah,
Josh?
I'll give
How about to your
2
wife?
shout outs. Yeah, Danielle's getting a shout out because if you guys heard me complain for 4 minutes, she listens to me complain all the time and not just about things that are pop culture related. And then I will give a shout out again to Bathrobe Joe. You can follow his poetry on Instagram at Bathrobe Joe.
Cool. All right, Lily, Becky.
I'm shouting out to the Counting Crows. See you later, peeps.
Oh, you're seeing them
One of the
tonight?
show tonight. Yep.
Oh, is that
Super
tonight?
excited. Yeah. I'm gonna go
Can
see
you
them.
look
in
closely at
Camden.
Adam Duritz' hair? I don't understand.
I'm in the 5th row. If I can
All
get
right.
a good look.
Way to go,
You,
Lil.
you told me to sit in the 5th row at this venue. You know all the venues. like I called you and I had a ticket emergency. You dropped everything. You were like, "What's the venue? I'll tell you where to sit." It's like a classic shy emergency, like SOS. And so yeah, you said fifth row center. That's what I did. And Josh, I will let you know what I think of the hair if I can get a good look.
I do like
At
the
it.
bangs.
All right, cool.
Yeah,
All
I'm
right,
excited. Never seen them.
And
Never
where,
seen them.
And where can people follow you, Lil?
At Chichi K Gomez on Twitter, and that's it. I don't have any
Becky?
others.
You can follow me at Paper BK Princess on Twitter.
Joshua, do you want
And the
anyone to follow
Everyday
you?
Oat blog, your blog.
And the Everyday Oat blog, everydayoat.com.
I don't really post very much, but you could follow me at Josh Crew on on Twitter.
There you go.
You can go to my old expired blog.
And you can follow me at Pancake for Table on Twitter and Instagram. You can follow all sorts of other pancake and pop culture related things at pancakefortable.com. Please rate, review, share us, the podcast. And you can also catch me on the other podcast that I participate in with Ash from the Gold Nerds. We do Behind the Music. Comes out every couple of weeks. We've got some fun ones coming up. We've got REM coming up. We've got Rick Springfield. I don't know if Lionel Richie might have come out. And we did Motley Crue recently, which was absolutely a hilarious experience. So those are coming up. And with that, the theme music by What Does It Eat will kick in, and we shall dance in our chairs. Dance.
Everybody's dancing.
Dancing. We're all dancing.
All right. Have a good day, guys. I'll see you soon. See you in a week.
See you in a
Thanks
week.
for
See you in a
having me.
week.
I love you. Bye.
All right, love you guys. Bye.
Lily,
Yeah,
do you
just I
travel
think
with your
it's-
giant microphone?
Josh,
You know what?
This is the
I
first
thought
time Josh
about
is
that.
seeing the giant microphone. But really,
I almost took it to a barbecue the other day. I was like, if I have to podcast people, I will podcast.